The story begins with two individuals standing in front of a blazing fire. A man yells, "What did she do?" with malice echoing from his voice. Our protagonist Lisa Fertan smiles at him. As the man becomes more agitated after realizing his powers aren't working, the blonde-haired man next to her with red eyes tells her if she gives him the order he'll get rid of the nuisance with his bare hands. However, she holds up her hand. She smirks and looking him in the eyes tells him he can't. The man interrupts their moment, ordering her to answer his questions. She laughs, exclaiming he thinks if he raised his voice she'll actually give him an answer. A chill goes down his spine. When she informs him their positions have changed, she declared the real incompetent one is him, her brother. This is just the beginning of her revenge, a special ability that only members of a certain lineage can possess. In other words, it's the qualification to stand above others. In her country, people with a special ability was promised a privileged life from birth. On the other hand, those without these abilities are called incompetent. These people are destined to work as hard as they can for these ability users. Currently, a princess is working tirelessly in some documents. The butler approaches her requesting she take a break, but she smiles, stating it's almost done, so he shouldn't worry. The servants and maids think that even though Lisa is an imperial princess, she's kind to them. They hope that she will become the next empress. Unfortunately, she has no powers. If only she wasn't an incompetent like them. However, it's strange, as all members of the royal family should be born with a special ability. Even her siblings have the most extraordinary abilities of all time. Lisa thinks she's a failure, and her only talent is handling government affairs better than anyone else, because she's an incompetent. Later on, she finally finishes the document. She enters a room where her brother is laying comfortable, talking with a friend. She approaches him, showing the documents he asked for. However, her brother clenches his teeth in irritation. He grabs the paper from her quickly. He looks over the document and tells her she's done very well. They're blood after all, so it makes sense. Even though she's incompetent, well done. She may have lost sleep, but she's pleased that her brother is happy. She then holds her head, realizing she's at her limit of her fatigue. She has to rest or she may faint. However, her brother requests that she prepares for tomorrow's festival. Surprised by his words, she reminds him that's his responsibility. He sighs loudly, covering his face. He explains that even though she's incompetent, this is something that can help the family, so he gave it to her. He looks her in the eyes and tells her to answer him honestly. She can do it, right? She feels weak, her breathing heavy, but she believes he's saying this for her own good. She confidently exclaims that she can do it. When she's leaving the room with a handful of documents, she encounters her sister. Lisa asked what happened. Louisa explains she believes she angered the Marchioness at the tea party. She exclaims she wants to apologize, but she is scared. Lisa, knowing that Louisa is only 16, believes this can't be helped. Lisa pats her head, stating she's reflected on it enough, so she will apologize for her. Louisa hugs her, stating thank you. She's truly reliable. With a contorted smile, she comments it's hard to believe she's an incompetent. Later that night in the mansion, Felix tells a story about his heroics. Afterwards, he informs their father that this festival will be conducted by Lisa. It's a good position since she has a good reputation among the commoners. Her father praises her, but comments if she only had special abilities she would go much further in life. Her father reveals that even among the subjects there are many people who want her to be the next empress. Her brother grits his teeth, as Lisa smiles gleefully, not noticing him at all. Louisa pours Lisa a drink, telling her to drink. Lisa drinks the wine. She's so happy that they accepted an incompetent like her into the family. In the next scene, a fire blazes, releasing gases and ash into the air. A bird screams, attempting to escape its confinement. At that moment, Lisa wakes up, realizing her room's on fire. She needs to escape, but can't. She notices her brother and sister standing a few feet in front of her. Dread fills her and she tells them to run away. However, she feels a pain in her chest. Her brother comments that Louisa's poison is working well, and Louisa compliments his flames. Blood flows from Lisa's mouth as she exclaims, "What?" Louisa explains that they're trying to get rid of their unfortunate sister. Lisa thinks they must be joking. Felix states that even though she's incompetent, she's interfering with him. If she stands out any more, it'll cause issues for him. Tears run down her face. She wants them to stop talking. The pain she's feeling is too intense. Her brother exclaims this is his last request, please die. She wonders why she worked hard for both of them. She clenches the sheet. And finally she realized that she was the only one who thought of them as family. She then decides if that's the case she won't think of them as family either. Even if her soul falls into hell, she will never forgive them. Suddenly Lisa jolts out of bed. The maid states she was worried because she was having a nightmare. For a moment Lisa thought it was a dream, but seeing the red stains on her hand, she knew it was real. She's shocked and confused, wondering if she came back from the dead. The maid informs her that her complexion doesn't look well, and if she's feeling unwell. Lisa puts on a smile, thanking Emma for her concern. Emma suggests she cancels the tea party with Princess Louisa if she's not feeling well. Hearing Louisa's name reminds her of how that witch poisoned her with a wine bottle. With a grin in her face, this makes her furious. Lisa tells Emma it's fine and to prepare as usual. At the tea party, Lisa still has a hard time believing it. She's returned a year earlier. Even her half-sister, the third princess, is sitting in front of her, who aided her brother Felix to get rid of her. Louisa inquires if she's listening. She comments that she's been gloomy for a while, and she's tired because of the incident that happened with her brother. Earlier, the nobles were arguing about a sudden tax increase that would bring the people on the brink of rioting. They question who would do such a stupid thing, but in cold tone Felix exclaims Lisa did it. Lisa turns her head in shock, wondering if she misheard. He elaborates that she did it without his consent or advice. She knows it's a lie. He gave that order forcibly, as she was about to defend herself. He places a hand in her shoulders. He whispers in her ear, please Lisa, if she understands that it's all her fault, everything will be fine. He comments if it's the work of an incompetent like her, everything will be fine. This hits a nerve, and tears start to form in her eyes. He states for the sake of the family, shouldn't she get her hands dirty? Suddenly she thinks she's just an incompetent who always causes trouble for her family. Her father inquires if she really did it. Lisa stands up exclaiming that she did it. She believes since she's so useless she as to be useful at times like this. In her past life she was truly foolish, tormented by a sense of inferiority. That's why she couldn't see her surroundings. Felix never thought of her as family, and she never realized it. Louisa exclaims she feels sorry for her and if it was really her brother's mistake. She then comments that even though she's incompetent, she's excellent, so her brother is jealous. She holds Lisa's hand, stating with a broad smile she declares she's absolutely on her sister's side. That's when Lisa questions what did she do? She can't remember one time when she helped her. It hits her like lightning. Louisa is just like Felix. They pretended to be on her side to push the tedious work onto her. She has no clue why she went back in time, but there's no reason not to take advantage of this opportunity. This time they won't get their way. That being said, both Louisa and Felix have special ability, and they have many aides behind them. Also, those who want to enrich themselves are on their side. Lisa informs Emma she wants to invite someone to the mansion, the Duke of Leuven, Theodore Leuven. The people exclaims it's Duke Theodore, the hero of the Leuven family. He's known as the supernatural hunter swordsman. He gives off a very intimidating aura. A knight inquires if he would like to continue to the palace, but Theodore states he has to report to His Majesty the Emperor. Suddenly a knight reads him a letter stating that when he returns to the imperial city, the sender would like to meet him. It's from Her Royal Highness Princess Lisa Fertan. Immediately he turns his horse, telling his men to return to the imperial palace first, as he will go to meet Her Highness the Princess. A servant exclaims Duke Theodore has arrived. As he enters, he stares down at her. She stands up and thanks him for coming. He slightly bows, stating it's an honor to be invited by Her Imperial Highness. Suddenly the atmosphere shifts and he inquires about her orders. She holds her trembling hand. She tells him they should go for a walk and talk. She exclaims for the first time in 10 years it's a reunion of childhood friends. Theo lowers his gaze and remains silent. She exclaims she heard he just returned from an expedition. He proudly states they repelled an invasion from the north. She asked if he's planning on staying in the imperial city for a while. He exclaims that's the plan. Duke Theodore Leuven is one of the 3 famous dukes in the empire. He's the head of the Knights of Leuven and lead his knights to fend off foreign enemies. He's the key of the Empire's military might. If anyone sees the Golden Lion of Leuven on the battlefield, be afraid, drop your weapons on run. Even if a mountain of the deceased are made, he doesn't lift an eyebrow. He's a cold-hearted knight. He's a person to be avoided in the Imperial Palace. He's her childhood friend. In her previous life, she became estranged from him, but she'd be grateful if she could get him to join her side. She lowers her head, knowing it's not right, and she has no intention of pretending to be a good person now. She's going to use him for her revenge. She smiles, stating that if he likes, she'll show him around the garden. As they walk together in the garden, she can't help but remember the past. It's nostalgic. They got along well and played with each other until sundown, just playing and laughing, also flirting with one another, like him bringing her flowers, but she never caught on. She thought those days would continue forever until her mother informed her Theo could not visit her anymore. She was devastated and never understood why. 10 years later, when she saw him again for the first time, he was no longer the man she knew. She could no longer remain innocent as she was back then. She nervously laughs, stating they used to play together. He looks at her, seemingly suspicious of something, exclaiming, "Is that so?" With a worried expression, she asks if he doesn't remember. He exclaims, "No." He then states she didn't call him to reminisce about the past. Did she? He asks her to tell him why she called him. Despite the fact that he's incompetent, he's able to fight on equal footing with people with special powers, and with the military power of his family, even Felix is afraid of him. She reveals that Felix and Louisa are using the fact that she's incompetent to oppress her and eventually take her life. She won't allow such tyrannical people to reap the benefits of their acts, so she will prevent their misdeeds and make them pay. He inquires if she's planning to make the royal family her enemy. Lisa declares she's planning to go ahead even if the road is painful. She extends her hand to him, declaring she wants him to have her back. He's surprised. However, her plea is honest and powerful. She wants him to cooperate with her. He questions what if he refused. She responds that she'll consider him her enemy. He asks if that's a threat. She tells him he can take it however he wants. However, she doubts that the Leuven family will suffer much for being hostile towards the incompetent princess. He inquires what his family will receive in return if they cooperate with her. She tells him she will provide him with benefits. What kind of benefits? He questions. She announces she'll give everything to him. He's stunned but inquires what she means. She smirks, stating it means exactly what she said: her property, her power, and herself. She elaborates that even though she's a weak and incompetent princess, the royal blood that flows through her is real. For the prosperity of the dukedom, she's sure she will bring some benefits. She states she will beat her siblings by any means necessary, so she asks for him to lend her his strength. He then questions if he declines if she will approach someone else with this offer. She looks at him curiously, stating that she believes that will happen. He immediately gets on his knees, declaring the House of Leuven pledges its loyalty to Princess Lisa. He kisses her hand, with fire in his eyes, stating from now on he'll follow her orders. She smiles and thanks him. Opposing Felix and the others is like challenging all the corruption in the country. It's going to be a tough journey. Theo informs her he must make his report to His Majesty. She tells him they should meet up again later. At that moment, they cross paths with Felix, who exclaims, "What kind of wind is blowing?" While looking at Theo with a disgusted look, Felix questions why a golden lion is next to Lisa. Louisa states it's like a beast came in. She can smell the scent of war. They comment that a whole bunch of useless and incompetent people have infested the palace. He feels sick. Felix laughs and orders Lisa to take Theo out of the palace. Lisa exclaims she refuses. Her siblings and the bystanders are flabbergasted. She exclaims they're not useless, and Theo is not a stray dog. Felix is shocked, and Louisa attempts to hide behind her brother. It's hard to believe that timid Lisa is talking back. She clenches her dress. Until now, it's hard to believe these people kept telling her this. However, her siblings have no right to decide who they are. Felix states it's no good to get angry like that, and Louisa comments she's a bit scary. Felix approaches her, stating it was just a joke. She can't believe that she was fooled by such a devious method for so long. But since they continue to treat her with disdain, she will take advantage of that. She timidly states since he talked about her friend in such a manner, she got carried away. However, it was rude of her to talk back to her brother. Felix proudly states it's fine since she understands. She then states regarding the tax increase at the recent parliament, she's going to try her best to reassess it. Her brother nervously inquires what is she talking about. She notices how panicked he is, but it's only natural as all the money he makes from the tax increase will be embezzled by him later. He tells her not to bother as the anger of the people will soon subside, so she should leave it alone. Moreover, it's an official order that has already been issued to all the people of the empire, so it would be very difficult to take it down. She tells him she will try. She may be incompetent, but she wants to work hard for her brother and the people of the empire. She smiles, stating he didn't mean to cause unnecessary problems to his subjects. She turns around and tells Theo to follow her. The nobles behind them question if they can really ask an incompetent to withdraw her order. However, it's unusual that it seems Felix can't say anything about it. Felix, feeling embarrassed, rushes towards Lisa. Suddenly, he's intercepted by Theo, stating that even His Highness wouldn't dare to harm Princess Lisa. With the wrath of a lion, she exclaims it would be unforgivable. They walk away, and Felix tells them to do as they please. Immediately, Louisa rushes towards him and tells him to calm down. He furiously states that he doesn't believe anything she does will work. Louisa exclaims it's that sister, so anything she does will definitely fail. The knowledge before her death and the label of incompetent was her trump card. By taking advantage of Louisa and Felix's actions, they'll prepare to rebel. She summons Lord Bale. He remarks that he's busy. He inquires what is the reason for a personal summon from Her Highness herself. She explains that he's in charge of the taxes of the country. She's also heard that he's a very capable person. He comments that as a chosen person with special abilities, he is trusted by His Majesty and even Prince Felix to do the work. She smiles, explaining that it's wonderful. Seeing her reaction, he suddenly realizes the position he's in. He inquires if she is questioning the tax increase. She responds yes. She is pondering if they can still reconsider it. He nonchalantly says that even if it's Her Highness's request, it would be difficult as proper procedures were taken, and even if a lot of fuss is made about it, he refuses to reassess it. In her previous life, this man flattered Felix with his sweet tongue and reaped sweet nectar because of it. As a result, her siblings' tyranny was very rampant, especially because of people like him. She makes up her mind and decides to get rid of him first. She smirks while holding a stack of paperwork, stating there is one more thing she would like to discuss with him. She reveals that she's been investigating the financial movements of his family, and there seems to be a lot of unnatural income. Lord Bale recoils from the shock. In a stern tone, she states that if he refuses to answer her question, he must account for where he's getting the money. Outside Lisa's office, he bites his nails, questioning how his embezzlement was discovered. And to make it worse, it was discovered by that failure of a princess. She's an incompetent, yet she does not know her place. If he can get his hands on that document, he promises that he'll make her regret it. At that moment, a messenger enters his office, informing him that he received a message from Prince Felix that the matter of the tax increase should not be left to Lisa. Hearing this, Lord Bale is even more irritated. He takes his frustration out on the servant, stating that the servant is just a mere incompetent, so he shouldn't tell him what to do. The servant goes and leaves. Bale knows if he disappoints His Highness's orders, his life will be in danger. Bale sees no other option than to use his special ability on the servant to fulfill his plan. However, he doesn't realize that he's falling into Lisa's trap, because if she shakes them up enough, they'll have no choice but to react. Theodore questions if it's really necessary to take such a risk, as Bale is a cunning man and will do anything to protect himself. She responds that she is sure that he will come after her. Theodore tells her that if he were in her position, he would capture Bale right now, regardless of whether alive or dead. She tells him that she's not doubting his ability. However, now is the time to move in secrecy and create an opportunity to strike. That's why she wants the other person to take action. Despite the fact that they signed a contract, she doesn't believe that Theo trusts her completely. She inquires if he remembers their old magic spell. She smirks and shows him her pinky finger. She promises him that she'll win his trust. He turns his head away, revealing that if things don't go well, he will have to take action. She responds that at that time she will ask him to. She knows that if they were to face the superpowers head-on, they would have no chance of winning. However, in such a situation they must overcome them. But everything is fine, as the preparations are ready. According to her predictions, they will fall into her trap soon. Suddenly, a servant rushes to find Princess Lisa. He's out of breath. He tells her about her office. She approaches her office and is surrounded by nobles and servants. They say that her office was damaged. A knight explains that the parliamentary secretary was seen coming out of her office and seems to have stolen documents. However, the secretary denies this. There are even testimonies that saw him running out of the office. Bale shouts that he saw him running out of the office too. The secretary gets on his knees, begging and saying that it wasn't him. The nobles comment that he's incompetent, so it makes sense that he would do this. The documents that have been stolen are all the evidence that was going to be used to blackmail Bale. She notices Bale's triumphant expression. However, looking at a bloody flower from her drawer, she thinks that he is the one that has fallen into her trap. She pretends to be distressed, stating that it's very sad that someone would do this, and the perpetrator must be made to pay for his crimes. Tears run down the secretary's face, and Bale smiles victoriously. However, she comments that it's strange as she also had a certain flower in the drawer. It has blood on the thorns, meaning the culprit must have rushed through the drawer, which means there must be wounds on his hands. However, this young man doesn't have a single scratch on his hands. At that moment, Bale looks at his hand, scratched and bleeding. It's obvious that he is the guilty culprit. She approaches him, whispering in his ears that his powers allow him to transform into other people's appearances. She tells him that he has a very useful power. However, once you know what it is, it's nothing special. Most people with special abilities keep the details of their abilities a secret because once it is discovered, it will be easy to find a weakness. Since she was forced to do all the work of the Imperial Palace, there is a huge amount of information that links to the evil deeds of people with abilities. As a result, it's not too difficult to guess the opponent's ability. She tells him by checking his movements they can find out where the documents went. She comments that if someone in charge of tax somehow went into the princess's office and stole documents, he must know what will happen. She smiles and inquires if he knows what to do. He turns his head, stating that he may have been incorrect when he said he saw the secretary. However, upon seeing Theo's face, he exclaims that he was 100% incorrect. Later on, Lisa's request for the tax review was approved by the parliament. He asks why Lisa is allowed to do as she pleases. Louisa, behind the door, thinks that her brother will be angry for a while. However, she has noticed that her sister's demeanor has changed. She's curious, but as she sees a blonde stud, Theo, she licks her lips thinking if she should have some fun. She approaches Theo and inquires if he's looking for her sister. He responds yes. However, she notices his stern expression and tells him not to be so alarmed. She gets close to him and in a sweet voice tells him that she's sorry for all the rude things she said. She tells him in order to apologize, she wants to treat him to some tea. While they are having tea, she asks if he's a knight. She requests to hear stories about his escapades. He responds that stories about the battlefield are not ones he can share with someone like the Imperial Highness. She comments that he's a gentleman. At that moment, he goes deep in thought to when Lisa informed him that many special people are scared of him because he is known as a supernatural Terminator. She ordered him to be as inconspicuous as possible because she wants him to live a peaceful life. He tells her that he understands. Suddenly, he tries to convey something to her. However, he stops, saying that it's nothing and bows and tells her goodbye. He continues drinking his tea and thinks that he must keep his promise to Princess Lisa. Meanwhile, Louisa analyzes him. First, she thought he was just a stray dog. However, now that she's up close and personal, she sees how obedient and cute he is. She smirks, thinking that her sister has not already won him over. She informs him that it's amazing that he is the head of a ducal family and also a knight. He thanks her for her praise. However, she announces that she believes that he deserves more recognition. He responds that he does not understand what she means. She explains that she can make him the best man in the empire. She grabs his arm and with her best smile, she tells him to stop being friendly with her sister and come over to her side. He retracts his hand and boldly states that it seems she misunderstood. There is only one master that can use him, and that master is Princess Lisa. He gets up and tells her it's almost time, so he must leave. The tea in her hand trembles rapidly. It's hard for her to believe that there's a man that would choose her thick, fine sister over her. Moments later, Theo enters the room where Lisa and the secretary are discussing something. He apologizes for his late arrival. She tells him that his arrival was perfect, but noticing his expression, she inquires if something happened. He shakes his head and denies it. Lisa explains that the secretary gave some useful testimonies. The secretary approaches Theo and inquires if he knows Marquis Damien Constable. Theodore is confused. Lisa explains that he is the scream-crazed Marquis. Hearing this name, Theodore is shaken. Marquis Damien is a man who loves beauty and has aristocratic hobbies. However, he always spends most of his time secluded in his mansion. Many people are scared of him. Even the members of the royal family hesitate to mention him. He is considered a weirdo. It is said that he's a sadist without measure and that he only targets low-class women, making them suffer horribly. Theodore inquires what that man is doing. She explains that, according to the secretary, the reason why Marquis' hobbies are overlooked is that he acts as an assassin for Felix. He uses his special ability to get rid of people who are nuisances to him. The secretary lowers his head, attempting not to cry, and reveals that many of his colleagues have lost their lives in strange ways. He had attempted to gather evidence against the Marquis, but given his position, he can't go any further than this. At this moment, Lisa realizes that when she was at their mercy, she could not see their plight. But now it's different. She tells them that the Marquis is 10 times more dangerous than Bale. She announces that if the Marquis's misdeeds come to light, Felix will have no choice but to react. This is their chance to fight back. Theodore questions what they should do about the Marquis. He asks if she has any ideas. Suddenly, she is surprised. She thought he would react the same way he did with Bale. At that moment, Theodore apologizes for his rudeness and lowers his head. He informs her that from now on, he would trust her as his master. Feeling nervous, she asks him to raise his head. However, she feels uncomfortable by the fact that he's accepted her as his master, so he can't even raise his head. She decides to accept her role. She tells him that he's forgiven and in a commanding tone, tells him to show her his face. She gets back to the topic and states that the Marquis is very cautious and rarely leaves his palace. However, there is a loophole. Every year, he appears and participates in the auctions hosted by the royal family. An auction is held once a year by the royal family, a top-notch auction that brings together a wide variety of art and antiques. It's famous for attracting prominent aristocrats from all over the country. The Marquis attends it every year without fail. She plans to trap the Marquis at this auction. A spokesperson announced that since the auction is approaching again, the parties from the imperial family are, as usual, Felix and his sister Louisa will attend. However, Lisa raises her hand and states that this time she would also like to attend the auction as well. Felix and Louisa stare at her in shock. The spokesperson seems stunned and doesn't seem to have any words. Noticing this, she asks for her father's opinion. Her father is the current emperor of the Rhodes Empire, Joseph Fertan. He is fair and respectful regardless of whether a person has a special ability or not. He's a man of supreme power who enjoys strong support from his subjects. He has many wives and children. He also has the power to decide who will become the next emperor. Her father is a man of principle. He is quiet but has a dignity that leaves no room for argument. If she can persuade him, then Felix and Louisa won't be able to resist. Her father comments that it is rare for her to act independently. She responds that she wants to learn lots of things. She heard that valuable items are collected at the auction. She would like to meet the nobles and broaden her horizons. Hearing her words, Felix and Louisa seem visibly captivated. With a disappointed expression, she inquires if what she's asking is impossible. Her father takes a moment to think and states that it's fine. He will allow her to attend. Suddenly, Felix begs his father to wait, reminding him that every year it has been decided that it will be him and Louisa. His father responds that there's nothing wrong with having one more person from the royal family joining. And since Lisa wants to do it, shouldn't he respect that? Or is he not satisfied with his decision? Felix is overwhelmed by fear and states that is not the case. His father smiles and responds that that's the end of the story. Brothers and sisters should get along well with each other and attend together. With this, she has overcome one hurdle. Outside the castle, rain falls, and Lisa stands in the rain, looking at the garden. She thinks that there is still time until that day arrives, and they will try their best to get evidence on the Marquis and also investigate his special abilities. Suddenly, Theodore emerges from the bushes. She wonders where he came from and inquires what he is doing. He brushes off his uniform and responds that he is merely exploring. As on the battlefield, he leaves nothing to chance. It's important to know the terrain. As Theodore stands behind her, he comments that it seems the security is weak. He inquires if there aren't any royal guards. She responds that it seems like her brother and Louisa have them, but because she is considered incompetent, she doesn't have proper security. Moments later, she stops at his door with a new change of clothes. She knocks but does not receive a response, so she opens the door and apologizes for the intrusion. She sees a muscular Theodore wiping his hair, with a scar on his abs. She stands there, frozen by his manly physique. Theodore is stunned and can't believe she is seeing him in such a light. She quickly regains her composure and informs him that she brought him a change of clothes. He apologizes for bothering her, but she tells him it's fine as the mansion is understaffed, and it's something she likes to do. In truth, she wanted to do it because they are scared of him. She notices a scar on his chest and inquires if the scars were from physical injuries sustained on the battlefield. He informs her that because he is considered incompetent, there is no way he could defeat someone with special abilities without getting hurt. The more lives he takes, the more wounds he sustains. She feels disheartened as she hears his cool voice, reminding her that the man she once knew is no longer there. Instead, it's a battered, changed man. She also realizes she has changed, using her childhood friend for revenge, just like Felix and Louisa. Felix sees that she's suffering, tries to say something but can't, so he just closes his mouth and stares at her from behind. Later that night, as she sleeps alone in bed, some men are having a conversation saying that her room is on the 3rd floor. They comment that for a member of the royal family, her security is very lacking. Another jokes, saying that she is the incompetent princess who was abandoned a long time ago. Suddenly, they notice a man approaching from the shadows. They quickly ready their weapons. As he approaches, he tells them that he doesn't know who paid them, but he guesses they are prepared to face the consequences. He took out his sword and, with a swift motion, rushed towards Theodore. He jumped up and exclaimed, "Die!" However, with one slash, he lost his arm and his life was extinguished. The thugs were terrified, and one of them revealed that he had heard if he took the princess's life, he would be rewarded with money. That was why he had attempted to commit the act. Theodore raised his sword above his head and declared, "Be silent. He will pay for his foolishness with his life." He then ordered his men to dispose of the body, referring to the thugs as mere dogs who were paid for their services. He inquired about Princess Lisa's well-being and was informed that she was resting and that security was perfect. Theodore sheathed his sword and instructed them not to let Princess Lisa find out about what had happened that night. He added that she should not be disturbed, and he considered it a frightening thought if this person was truly an enemy. He reflected on how Princess Lisa, who was trying to correct the empire's injustices, was fighting alone in such a place. He remembered her sweet expression from when she was a child and how she had made him blush and softened his demeanor. He acknowledged that he was not the same person he had been back then and believed that he was now simply a man who deserved to fall into hell. The next day, Lisa was in a carriage. To corner the Marquis, they needed the victim's testimony. She had cancelled any other appointments and decided to take action herself. She approached a lady in her home and asked if Miss Daisy Mason was present. The lady, with tired eyes, revealed that she was Daisy. Lisa smiled and introduced herself as an envoy of the imperial family. She asked if Daisy could tell her what had happened to her. Inside Daisy's home, Daisy revealed that she was the second daughter of Baron Mason and had been treated poorly even at home. However, her singing talent had been recognized, and she was offered a debut at the Opera House. Lisa had heard that Daisy had a wonderful singing voice and was even called the Imperial Capital's songstress. However, the performance was suddenly cancelled. Daisy explained that a man had appeared and offered to be her sponsor, introducing himself as Marquis Damien Constable. Despite feeling looked down upon and considered incompetent, she was surprised that someone with special abilities like him would offer to help her. She was genuinely grateful, but upon entering his mansion, he attacked her. She had never expected him to be so violent. He kept hitting her until she could no longer react, and in the end, he scarred her for life, rendering her unable to perform. Lisa looked at Daisy in horror and exclaimed that it was terrible. However, it was not over. Daisy's family was afraid of the Marquis and pushed her into such a place. No matter how many incompetent daughters were sacrificed, the world paid no attention to them. Daisy pleaded with Lisa, saying that she would do anything, at any price, just to ensure that innocent women were taken care of. Lisa wondered if it was worth having merely a special ability, and she believed such cruelty could not be forgiven. She stood up, stating that she understood Daisy's feelings and would definitely punish the Marquis. She assured her that it would be done and asked if Daisy knew what kind of special powers Marquis Damien had. Daisy replied that she was so scared that she quickly ran into a room, but the Marquis suddenly appeared. She could not believe her eyes. The only way in or out was through one door, which was blocked. He told Daisy not to make him use his special powers for something like this, and his voice was filled with anger. It was a mysterious special power that he considered valuable. Perhaps it was the true nature of the Marquis's power. At that moment, Lisa had an idea and realized his weakness. She left Daisy's residence, thinking about the Marquis's ability. He possessed a mobility power that allowed him to enter and exit any place he wanted without being blocked by obstacles. It was a terrifyingly troublesome power, but its use had significant limitations. With this knowledge, they should be able to deal with his special powers. She then saw someone stopping the carriage, so she ordered the carriage staff to stop. Theodore entered and heard that Lisa had met with the victim. She inquired about Theodore's investigation, and Theodore revealed that he was searching for evidence that Marquis Damien was committing horrific crimes under Prince Felix's orders. It seemed that everything connected to him had been erased, so he questioned what they should do. Lisa thought for a moment and realized that without evidence, even if she caused a fuss now, it would be hushed up. However, she knew that the more cowardly a person was, the more likely they were to keep evidence on hand. She ordered Theodore to sneak into the mansion and capture the evidence. Theodore expressed concern, stating that it would certainly surprise her but would be difficult. What could anyone expect from an art collector? The security at the Marquis's mansion was tight, and it was challenging to bypass it. The question was how to sneak into the mansion. Suddenly, Lisa noticed a boy carrying a gift and had an idea. If it was hard to sneak in, the Marquis himself will welcome them in. In the next scene, a winged lion, majestic and seemingly staring off into the distance, was shown. The man commented that it was definitely the highlight of the exhibition. Suddenly, he noticed Princess Lisa with some men behind her and inquired why she was there. She explained that she had been asked by her superiors to do some work, so she would check the listing for him and he could leave. He quickly passed her the listing and said he understood. At that moment, she ordered the men to get to work. They commented that it was an incredible job to drill a hole in the national treasure and create a structure where people could hide. In this country, the winged lion was considered a deity, reserved for special abilities or nobles seeking privileges. Nobles often pray to the winged lion and cling to it, but Lisa was different. She would never pray to it. She intended to crush those who imposed inequality and harmed innocent people. On the day of the auction, nobles praised Princess Felix and Princess Louisa, commenting on their beauty. Felix exclaimed that being a member of the royal family was exhausting. Louise cheerfully remarked that, if that were the case, she saw he was having lots of fun. Felix wondered about the point of being so friendly toward these people. He inquired about Lisa's whereabouts and what she was doing. At that moment, Lisa and Theodore arrived, stunning and attracting the attention of everyone. The men and women began to blush, surprised to see Princess Lisa and Theodore. Meanwhile, Felix and Louisa looked on with jealousy. As they walked, Lisa asked Theodore if it was all right for him to enter the Marquis's mansion, suggesting that he did not need to go. He replied that he was accustomed to danger and she would be pleased if she could achieve revenge on Felix and Louisa. Justice was merely a means to that end. It was not painful, and she was not confused because she was focused on revenge. She smiled and told him that she was relying on him. Suddenly, Marquis Damien appeared with two girls on his arm, seemingly uncomfortable. He glanced at Lisa, pushed the girls away, and approached her, bowing. His eyes were unsettling. After that, he held the two girls and walked away. Later, the auction began, and a beautiful painting was sold to a wealthy man in a white coat, and a stunning necklace was sold to an elegant older woman. The highest price was paid for the Twilight statue, bought by Marquis Damien Constable. For now, everything was proceeding as planned. Theodore took this opportunity to enter his designated position, marking the beginning of the battle. Louisa, commented that she found the auction very exciting. She asked Lisa how it was for her. Lisa gave an awkward smile and replied that she had a lot of fun. Suddenly, Marquis Damien appeared. He referred to them as the children of the sun. Felix smirked, stating that the Marquis and him were close. Felix informed Marquis that there was no need to be formal. Marquis approached Lisa, saying it was the first time he had seen her. He referred to her as the Dark Moon Princess and expressed surprise at being able to meet her. Seemingly irritated, Lisa asked what he meant by dark moon. He explained that it meant the more beautiful the moon, the more it hides. Princess Lisa was known for rarely attending public events. She informed him that she was interested in the art and had also wanted to meet the Marquis. He seemed surprised that she wanted to meet him. She mentioned that there were rumors around the city claiming he had committed terrible acts. Felix became furious and exclaimed her name, but Marquis Damien told him he did not mind. He nonchalantly told the princess that sometimes women make false claims for money. Those not blessed with special abilities and without a man they cannot do anything. It seemed that the more powerless a person was, the more likely they were to act cowardly. To reduce the number of such people, he had recently focused on supporting activities for women. She smiled, commenting that it was admirable. Marquis then turned his attention to Felix and inquired about a certain matter. Lisa noticed that Marquis did not feel guilty and knew that she would definitely get her revenge. Theodore entered a room, and as planned, only the base had been replaced with a fake. He touched it and it opened. Suddenly, he heard a sound and hid behind an art piece. It was the Marquis. Marquis Damien remarked that it was beautiful and questioned whether the god who gave special abilities were truly heroic. He slowly approaches Theodore's position. As he gets closer, Theodore prepares to unsheath his sword. However, this is interrupted by Lisa calling for the Marquis. She smiles and informs him that she heard he was headed there and suggests they talk a little more if he has the opportunity. However, the Marquis's attention is preoccupied as he tries to look back at the vase. At that moment, Lisa places her hand on his cheek and tells him that she would like to hear more about the support activities he mentioned earlier. Marquis, obviously intrigued, quickly agrees. He orders his men to take the statue back to his mansion. As they walk together, Lisa smiles. Noticing this, the Marquis inquires if something happened. She tells him no, it's just that the Marquis is a very kind person and helps a lot of people. Later, the men bring the statue into the mansion. They carefully move the statue, and everything seems to go well. Outside the mansion at night, Lisa confirms that the statue has been safely transported. At the same time, the knights discuss that if they failed to gather evidence, it would be a big problem. They have no choice but to trust the commander of the night. She has shared all the information she could, and now it is up to Theodore. Theodore enters the Marquis's private room and touches a table that leads to a secret compartment. As he descends the stairs and enters the room, he sees torn dresses with blood stains and pictures of women screaming in pain. The Marquis is clearly a man of bad taste. Suddenly, Theodore notices Prince Felix's name along with assassination instructions addressed to the Marquis. With this, they have evidence to denounce not only the Marquis but also Prince Felix. Suddenly, Theodore dodges a shot aimed at him. The Marquis says that it's unfortunate when young people with bright futures turn to evil. Theodore attempts to pick up the letter that had fallen from his hands, but the Marquis shoots at him, stopping him from retrieving it. The Marquis makes a grim expression and states that the conversation is not over yet. He questions whom Theodore is following. Theodore prepares to unsheath his sword and tells him that he will be the one to judge his evil deeds. The Marquis tells him that it's rude, but it is a noble mission. People with special abilities should always be respected and given preferential treatment. However, he only meets worthless, incompetent people and women who come forward to find fault with them. He tells Theodore not to get the wrong idea about nobles crushing them, including their dignity. When he hears their screams, he feels the joy of doing a noble duty. At this point, Theodore becomes furious and rushes at the Marquis. The Marquis, feeling that Theodore isn't a threat, attacks him. Theodore's face is bruised, causing streams of blood to run down. Theodore jumps into the air, preparing to slash at the Marquis. However, the Marquis smartly retreats into the wall, causing Theodore to strike the wall instead. This ability is incredibly frustrating. Inside the wall, Marquis wonders how powerful Theodore really is, but concludes he is just an incompetent opponent. Marquis decides to appear from behind Theodore. However, Theodore senses him immediately, grabs the Marquis's hand, and removes the gun from it. To Marquis's shock, he is punched in the face and knocked out. As he lies on the ground, he cannot believe the force behind the punch. Had he been hit directly, he would have been severely injured. But how did Theodore know his location? Earlier, Lisa had stated that even if he could move through objects, he would appear at a moment's notice, but Marquis, being a coward, would always attack from a blind spot, so there was no need to be afraid. Theodore smiles, thinking it happened just as Princess Lisa said it would. Marquis slowly backs away, exclaiming that Theodore is a monster. Theodore grabs Marquis's shirt, stating that he's used to that term, and then knocks out the Marquis, almost disfiguring his face in the process. Theodore believes the guards will soon come rushing in after hearing the gunfire. He walks over to retrieve the letter, but at that moment, the Marquis wakes up and grabs it. Suddenly, Marquis fades into the wall, but not before claiming that an incompetent person like him could never catch him. As he disappears into the wall, the Marquis escapes. Moments later, he meets up with Princess Lisa and the others, informing them that the Marquis has escaped. One of the knights states that without evidence, they are to blame. Lisa tells them it's not over yet. They must chase after the Marquis and catch him. A knight voices concern, stating that Marquis has special abilities, so what is her solution? Meanwhile, the Marquis is making his escape with the letter. He knows that as long as he has this evidence, he can fabricate any story he wants and avoid justice. But if he rushes to His Highness's territory, they won't be able to lay a hand on him. He thinks the price they will pay for showing their face will be steep. Suddenly, a man exclaims that the Marquis is over here. The Marquis is taken aback. He enters the wall, thinking that the only thing he has to worry about is the supernatural assassin. But with his powers, he is sure he can easily evade these fools. However, another person exclaims that he is over here. Marquis begins to panic as he runs. No matter where he goes inside the walls, they keep finding him. He wonders why he can't escape. As he runs, a knight blows a whistle, alerting the others to their location. The Marquis wonders what's happening. At that moment, Princess Lisa informs them that the Marquis is taking the Western Alley and trying to make his way toward Felix's territory. Unfortunately for the Marquis, the layout of this area was all planned by Princess Lisa, as it was forced upon her by her brother. For many nights, they held meetings reflecting the voices of government officials and residents. Even with her eyes closed, she knows where everything is. A knight wonders how Princess Lisa is considered incompetent when her talent exceeds most individuals with abilities. Due to this, and because this place was built by those despised by nobles, there is nowhere for him to escape. Marquis starts to panic, feeling out of breath and dizzy. Everything feels strange to him, indicating that he has reached the limits of his powers. At that moment, he is caught by Theodore and another knight. The Marquis quickly realizes the situation and begins begging for his life. He tells Theodore that he will give him the evidence and cooperate as much as needed. He rummages through his pocket, stating that he will hand over the letter now. However, he pulls out a knife, planning to attack Theodore, which is a very foolish move given that Theodore is a knight. Theodore grabs his arm and immediately knocks him to the floor. Marquis tries to reach for the knife, but Theodore steps on his arm. Marquis screams in pain, and the knights cover their ears. Theodore orders his knights to take him away. In a desperate attempt to escape, the Marquis tells Theodore that Prince Felix won't stay quiet. His master seems to have considerable special powers, but he is no match for Prince Felix. Theodore questions why he thinks their master has special powers. Marquis responds that it's logical. He sees Theodore's master's ability to exploit weaknesses as a sign of extreme power and intelligence. A knight comments that he doesn't understand anything, leaving the Marquis confused. However, as their intelligent and powerful leader approaches, the Marquis is in total shock to discover that it is Lisa. She smirks and says that she is very pleased that they were able to meet again. Marquis Constable is furious. Anyone would have been better than an incompetent woman. She tells him that every time he uses his special ability it wears out quickly and it cannot be used repeatedly. That's the weakness of his special ability. He must be cautious in using the power. Even after he escaped, he should have stayed hidden inside the wall, but he didn't, since using his ability is like diving through water. If a person understands that his special ability is not a big deal, Marquis Constable is enraged and grits his teeth. He then questions if she thinks that Prince Felix will leave it like this, as he believed the incompetent people can get away with defying them. All of them will die with His Highness's special power. She approaches him. For the sake of this man's desire, she wonders how many women shed tears. She places her hand on his cheek. She tells him that he should not forget that now his life is in her hands. He is mortified. She further explains that with this evidence, no matter how great her brother is, no one will be able to escape unscathed. Her brother and him will both be put through hell from now on. No matter what means they use, she will be sure to make it happen. A shiver goes down the Marquis' spine as he realizes that she is different from the person he met at the auction house. This feeling of intimidation, it's like facing His Majesty the Emperor. She smirks and informs him that the level of fear he is experiencing is just the beginning. She will give him an eternity of suffering and struggle for all the women he has trampled upon. She orders the knight to take the Marquis away, and the knight seizes him. The Marquis pleads for mercy. Theodore apologizes for causing her trouble, and she smiles, telling him not to worry, as he did a great job. This brings them one step closer to revenge against Felix. She tells Theodore to look at the moon, which is so beautiful. Not long after, news about Marquis Constable spreads among the people. The men are disgusted, and the women are at peace. A person reads the newspaper to the emperor, who thinks that Felix has made a fool of himself. When Felix hears the news, he is furious and tears the newspaper in half. He cannot believe that the Marquis has been arrested. This will have severe consequences. Many people with special abilities are often covered up, but a nobleman of such stature being arrested is unprecedented. Because there is evidence, Felix will also be investigated for his involvement with the Marquis. Lisa notices that her maid seems to be in a good mood. Her maid remarks that she is in high spirits because she has heard bad rumors about the Marquis for a long time. There is no way she wouldn't be happy. If people with special abilities were caught, the world would be a better place. This incident will have a huge impact on the country, and soon an emergency meeting will be held with members of the imperial family and ministers. For now, they must wait for her father's decision. The maid informs Lisa that something not written in the newspaper, but according to rumors, the knight played an important role in arresting the Marquis. Lisa realizes that she was able to achieve this with Theodore's help and that she needs to take good care of them. However, she becomes worried, wondering if Theodore's injuries are okay. That night, Theodore is in pain, sweating constantly and having difficulty sleeping. He dreams of being on the battlefield, sweating and running away. Suddenly, his foot is gripped by fallen comrades, which drag him down to the depths from where they came. He wakes up, extending his hand in an attempt to escape. It is not the first time he has had this dream. At that moment, a knight knocks on his door, informing him that Princess Lisa is here. We then see Lisa walking with a basket in her hand. A knight tells her it's a bit rude but asks for her forgiveness, explaining that the leader will be there soon. She remarks that this is the Duke's mansion, though it feels more like a garrison. A knight tells her that if she is interested, she could visit the training ground. She smiles and agrees. At the training ground, she meets Theodore, hands him the basket, and informs him that she is visiting the troops, and this is all for the night. The rest will be delivered later. The knights are surprised to see alcohol. The female knight comments that it has been a long time since she has had something made with white sugar. Theodore tells her that there is no need to give them something like this, but she insists, saying that everyone helped her with the Marquis case. Theodore requested that she at least contact them before coming. He finds it curious that Her Imperial Highness came alone. She lowers her head and apologizes, saying she will be more careful. Theodore offers to take her home. Suddenly, they hear the sound of a horse. A comments on the horses and inquires if she can see it. She blushes and asks if it is okay with Theodore. Theodore tells her that if it is only for a while, it is fine. This is the first time she has seen a horse up close. Theodore mentions that it is his horse. Suddenly, the horse begins to lick her neck. He comments that it is rare for the horse to feel attached to other people. She asks Theodore if he can teach her how to ride a horse, thinking that such transportation will be useful. There is no harm in learning things that will aid her revenge. While Theodore teaches her about the horse, he advises her not to be insecure when taking the reins, explaining that it is challenging and may feel uncomfortable at times, which is why it is important to assert herself as the owner. The horse shakes more than she expected. If she were her old self, she would never have been able to see this view. Suddenly, the horse becomes wild. Lisa is scared, thinking she is about to fall, but Theodore catches her and tells her to be careful because the horse shakes. She blushes and thanks him. The knights watch them as if they are watching a drama. A boy comments that he has never seen the leader's face like that before. This scene is a once-in-a-lifetime event. A few days later, the royal family and the ministers gather, likely regarding the arrest of the Marquis. Using connections, reliable evidence is submitted to the court. Felix will inevitably be pursued. The emperor arrives and apologizes for keeping them all waiting, then orders them to begin. The discussion is about the arrest of Marquis Constable. His crimes include abuse of incompetence and involvement in assassinations, which are unacceptable to the country. His land will be confiscated, and the Marquis family will lose their titles. This is an unusually severe punishment for someone with special powers. Felix trembles as the emperor discovers an assassination instruction letter addressed to the Marquis. The emperor tells Felix that it appears his stamp was pressed onto it. Felix is petrified, and the nobles are flabbergasted. It seems there is no way he will be able to escape this. Felix exclaims, "Father, please believe me. This must be some kind of mistake." The emperor tells him to be silent. Fear is visible in Felix's eyes. The emperor then tears the letter in half, stating that after examination, it was determined to be fake and that Felix did not order the assassination. Lisa knows this is a lie, but her father declares therefore there is no reason to pursue Felix any further. Louisa then states that she believes in her brother. Lisa thinks she should have predicted this outcome. She was careless. At that moment, Felix approaches his father, who claims he believes in him. Felix looks at his father, who looks down at him and tells him not to get him wrong. He explains that he must protect the authority of the country. If they commit 10 bad deeds, they must do 100 good deeds. That is the duty of the royal family. Felix is mortified by these words. His father tells him not to disappoint him any further. Felix begins to shake and exclaims, "Yes, Your Majesty, I will keep it in mind." The emperor then calls for Lisa, telling her to come forward. He has heard that she was a central figure in this incident. He announces that his daughter, Lisa, has grown wise and strong. She is definitely competent and will eradicate corruption, making the country a better place. Lisa stares at her father, thinking that everything is in his hands. He stopped the pursuit of Felix and used her to manipulate public opinion and save the royal family's reputation. His Majesty asks if she wants anything, as she deserves a reward. She thinks it is a form of hush money, but she decides that it is acceptable. She requests that her father allow her to start a project to support monasteries and orphanages. She wants to help the people tormented by the Marquis. Additionally, she wants Duke Leuven the right to investigate in the imperial city. She explains that though he is incompetent, he is in charge and protects the peace, and she is sure the people will feel safe. Her father grants her request, but Felix attempts to protest, stating that it is dangerous to entrust the security of the imperial capital to someone without special abilities. However, his father ignores him and states that he knows Lisa is a talented child, but he also understands how an incompetent person like her cares about another incompetent person. Things have changed quite a bit. She meets her father's gaze seriously, thinking that it seems he already knows everything. This incident has made it clear that her father is not on her side, but she is acting for the sake of what she wants to protect. She is certain that her father knew she was going to perish, but turned a blind eye. She exclaims that she is following in the footsteps of her respected father, and is sure he would not ignore the people's concerns. He glares at her and she glares back. He smiles and says she should do whatever she likes. She bows and thanks him, saying that as long as he does not get in her way, she will be an honest, beautiful, and incompetent princess but will do what she wants. Later, Felix is seen hitting the wall. Until now, he has stood beside his father, but he does not understand what is happening. At that moment, Louisa calls out to him. He apologizes, stating that he is not in the mood to talk. Louisa tells him she has something to ask him. With a devious grin, she says it is time for her sister to be punished. Louisa elaborates that their older sister used to understand her own inconvenience and did everything without attracting attention. But she thinks she has been misunderstanding things lately and may be aiming to replace him as the next emperor. Felix becomes angry, wondering if such a thing is allowed. Louisa asserts that she believes he is the most suitable for the task, and there is something she would like him to do. She whispers it into his ear, and a grin appears on his face. She understands that her brother will take care of the rest now. Meanwhile, in the monastery, the people receive help from the imperial family. Lisa hopes it will be a little easier for everyone now. Daisy lowers her head slightly and turns gratefully towards Lisa. Lisa is happy that this could help heal their wounds, even if just a little. However, she has a request. She needs to ask something she doesn't understand. She questions whether she is indeed the Imperial Highness's messenger. Lisa is relieved that it seems her true identity hasn't been revealed. She confirms that she is merely a messenger for the Imperial Highness and questions why Daisy thinks otherwise. Daisy explains that there is a rumor that Her Royal Highness, the princess, might change this country on the side of the incompetent people. With tears in her eyes, she asks Lisa to tell Her Highness that she saved her life. Later, she meets Felix, who comments that she seems happy. She explains that she used to think her life was of no use to anyone, but today she was able to help the people of this country, which warms her heart. Suddenly, she shows Theodore a necklace, stating that she grants him the right to investigate the imperial capital. Theodore bows and declares he will fight for her, even if she betrays her, even if she betrays him. She still doesn't know what he's thinking. He may rebel against her someday if he loses affection for her, but he is her only hope. They may be in love with each other but aren't showing it. At another tea party that Louisa seems to be hosting, the noble ladies compliment her on her beauty. One of them mentions that rumors say the Marquis of Clarence wants to meet Lady Louisa. Louisa smiles, saying she is glad to hear that. Courting from a gentleman would not be a problem. Louisa appears to be enjoying herself, but this is just another tea party as usual. The ladies gather to discuss her, and she looks forward to making the stories bloom, which is what she wants. She intends to focus on politics and the people of the territory. Suddenly, a maid informs her that someone has arrived. With an evil smirk, she tells the girls they have a special guest for today's tea party. Her older sister, Lisa. Louisa calls her over, wondering about the invitation. Louisa smiles and says they have been waiting for her. Lisa acknowledges the invitation. Louisa's tea party is a special event that only aristocrats chosen by her can attend. However, Lisa had never been called before. Louisa tells her not to just stand there and to take a seat. There are two main types of ladies invited to this tea party. Either she is a young lady Louisa likes or a young lady that Louisa finds a nuisance. It seems Louisa's territory is more extensive than Lisa expected, making it look like it will be fun. The young ladies can't believe Princess Lisa is attending the tea party. She is usually engaged in government affairs like the men, so one of the ladies remarks that she thought Lisa wasn't interested in tea parties like the rest of them. Lisa smiles, stating that she has realized she should attend social gatherings as well. She requests that they share their stories for study purposes. Louisa intervenes, saying she would like to hear about her sister, particularly something about her and Duke Theodore. They looked great together when they were walking down the auction. The ladies are intrigued and question if it is true. They inquire about her relationship with him. The curiosity of the young ladies becomes a problem. Lisa explains that Duke Theodore and she are often involved in political affairs and that he is one of her dearest friends. Louisa notices Lisa's calmness and realizes something has changed about her. However, this is not the end. Louisa's tea parties are not as sweet as one might think. A girl comments that there is a rumor about Lisa taking Duke Theodore to her residence. Another girl exclaims that she is being lewd and disrespectful to Princess Lisa. The girl asks if she is not concerned about it. Lisa is visibly unhappy and knows that words alone won't stop the scandal with the Duke. The spreading rumors could ruin her place in society. It is true that Theodore has been frequently in and out of her mansion, which is hard to deny. The girl inquires if she and Duke Theodore are in a relationship. Given this situation, she wants Lisa's mercy. She introduces herself as Lady Matilda, the daughter of Baron Finch. She is worried because her father borrowed a considerable number of soldiers from Duke Theodore. Military support from the imperial family is proportional to the number of troops in their territory, so increasing the number of troops is crucial. This means the Baron must be in the Duke's debt. If Lady Matilda spreads rumors and worsens her father's relationship with the Duke, it would cause her father significant trouble. Matilda's face turns pale as the blood drains from it, and she begins to tremble, asking how Lisa knew this. Lisa explains that she has met Baron Finch several times on unofficial business. Suddenly, Matilda stands up and apologizes to Lisa, taking back everything she said so far and begging her not to tell the Duke. Lisa tells Matilda that since it is her tea party, she should be more careful about what she discusses. Louisa smiles and agrees. At this moment, Louisa has lost use for Matilda and sees her as nothing but a useless girl. She took the trouble to tell her about a rumor that could cause a stir. Louisa calls out to Matilda, stating that her words and actions were thoughtless and inappropriate for the occasion. Therefore, she is banned from the tea party for 6 months. Matilda starts to cry and becomes even more pale. She does not want to miss the tea party, but it must be some excellent tea. Lisa, with a troubled expression, states that she thinks Louisa is being a bit harsh. It is true that the words Matilda said cannot be erased, but Lisa acknowledges Matilda's mistakes and her deep regret. There is no need for further condemnation. Matilda looks at Lisa as if she is her hero. These are no longer tears of sorrow but tears of joy. Lisa states that, regarding the rumors, she was actually thinking of holding a ball. She was trying to keep it a secret to avoid raising expectations, but instead, an unfortunate rumor has started. The ladies inquire if they will be invited to Princess Lisa's ball, but Louisa is petrified as she is not getting enough attention. This is her tea party. Why does her sister look like the main character? Lisa asks Louisa if she is okay, as she doesn't look well. Louisa quickly recovers and states that she is thrilled to have a ball hosted by her sister. She requests an invitation as well. When the sun begins to set and the other ladies have left, Louisa thinks to herself about how her sister is mocking her. She can't believe she is being mocked and becomes angrier as the plans around her deteriorate. She cannot wait for her brother to injure her. Lisa has never seen Louisa so aggressive before. Unlike before, Louisa's true nature is beginning to reveal itself. The future is starting to change little by little. Lisa does not know what Felix will do after being stabbed by their father, but she knows she must be careful. And the next scene, Felix exclaims that he heard she had a little trouble with Lisa and asks if she is okay. She makes a tense expression and asks if he's ready for this. He will take care of it. When he attends today's parliament, he will address the issue. The next item on the agenda is from His Highness Felix. Lisa wonders what he is doing, as this is the first time this has happened. He apologizes for the trouble he has caused them. He admits he is still learning and has a lot to improve, which is why he has decided to decline the chairmanship of the Grand Council of Nobility. He would like to recommend his sister, Lisa, as the new chairperson. Lisa is stunned by the news. The Grand Council of Nobility, unlike ordinary parliament, only allows aristocrats with special abilities to participate, excluding political secretaries and incompetent aristocrats. It is commonly known as a special power conference, where there is no political discussion, but rather a display of superiority among those with extraordinary abilities and their loyalty to the imperial family. Although it is mostly ceremonial, it remains a major event with national prestige at stake. The position of chairperson is powerful, and with Felix being the current chairman, many things have gone well. With her being the incompetent one, She realizes that proud aristocrats will gather, and if she fails, the prestige of the empire will be shattered, with her bearing full responsibility. Felix turns to her and asks if she will accept the position. She stands up, stating that they all do respect, but it is too much for her to handle, but Louisa also recommends her. Felix exclaims that those who agree should applaud. Slowly, each aristocrat begins to clap. The emperor declares that he appoints Princess Lisa to preside over the upcoming Grand Council of Nobility. This situation is becoming complicated. She has been forced to prepare the documents by Felix before, so she is sure she'll be able to handle it, but she doesn't know much about the practical side of things. They need to get experienced political secretaries. Suddenly, Felix appears, stating that he has handed over his important role to her. So why does she look so pathetic? Lisa questions if there's anything he needs. He states that since he's the one doing the handover work, if she needs anything, she should just say so. That's very kind of him. She takes him up on his offer and asks him to introduce her to the political secretaries who have been in charge of the Council of Extraordinary Power. Felix reveals that he has fired them all. The two men behind them look down and away from the situation. Felix states that he paid them a lot of severance, meaning he forced these men to resign as parliamentary secretaries just to obstruct her. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like there's anything that can be carried over. He knows it's killing her, and he wants her to do her best. He didn't walk away, he's leaving. He gives his regards to her watchdog. However, she doesn't plan to let him beat her again. She thinks there must be a way to take advantage of this situation and use it for her revenge. In the next scene, we see Felix at the table with some aristocrats. An unattractive noble states that it is disgraceful for allowing the princess to serve as the chairperson of the Council of Extraordinary Powers. Felix comments that he's looking forward to seeing what the outcome will be from now on. He tells them how a supernatural meeting could not succeed if run by an incompetent person. They all know what to do. They're smart enough to understand. He cuts his meat, thinking this is fine. He's going to show them what an incompetent Lisa is, that she's only capable of doing nothing at all. That night, Lisa orders the servant to send letters according to the list. Over the past few days, she has sent convocation letters to people, but hasn't received a reply from anyone. She wonders if Felix is behind this or if they're simply disrespecting her. At least if even just one person contacts her, it would be okay. The next day, she inquires about the letters, but the servant, who seems to have not slept for days, says he hasn't received a single reply. She thanks him for answering, but she actually doesn't know if they will be able to handle this the right way. They still have a few moves left, but they'll need to get a bit rough. Suddenly, papers fall on the ground as a servant seems to think. Lisa tells him he should get some rest, but he holds her hand and says there's no problem. As Princess Lisa is working much harder than him, there's no way he can take a break and leave her behind. She grits her teeth. She can't keep it together anymore. If she doesn't get angry, they will continue to do whatever they want. She has no choice but to force her way through. The servant seems worried for her, but she tells him she has something to do today, so she'll be going out. He blushes and exclaims, "Yes," but before she leaves, he tells her not to push herself too hard. She blushes slightly and thanks him. Felix has many nobles on his side by bribing and baiting. They have no chance of winning unless they break their unity. To do that, she has come to this prison. A guard guides her to a prison cell, where she meets Marquis Damien Constable, who seems to be a mere shadow of his once glorious self. But there's a crucial question. How are they restricting him with just this? Can't he use his power to escape? She takes off her cloak and tells him it's been a long time. Damien is furious and asks what she's doing there. She tells him she's come to save him. He's been treated badly. It's dirty and unsanitary, and he can't even eat properly. It must be unbearable pain. He grabs onto the bars and asks who is to blame. She stares at him and smirks, making a chill run down his spine. Suddenly, she tells the guard to unlock the door. He tries to protest, but she smiles and tells him it's all right. She enters his cell and takes out a knife, pointing it at him, and asks if he would like to make a deal with her. She tells him to give her the name of a nobleman who is cooperating with her brother. He backs away, asking if she wants him to betray his friends. She grabs his hands and puts a knife in them. It's pathetic seeing this once proud Marquis acting like a whimpering baby. She tells him if he still wishes to take her brother's side. She suggests he take her life with the knife. If he goes that far, her brother will praise him. However, he will be sentenced to death. This frightens him. She asks how long he intends to be obedient to that man. He realizes that he hasn't received a single letter since he arrived there. It finally sinks in that His Highness has abandoned him. She thinks he's finally come to accept the reality of his situation. He's already been discarded. She tells him to decide. Is he with her or with Felix? He asks what's in it for him with Princess Lisa. She places her hand on his cheek, looks deeply into his eyes, and smiles mischievously. In the next scene, an aristocrat states that he didn't expect the incompetent princess to come in person and it's a hassle. When he sees her, he welcomes her with open arms. She tells him that since he didn't respond to her letter, she's come to ask if he will be attending. He inquires if it's about the extraordinary meeting. He smirks, stating that he hasn't been feeling well, so he was considering declining to participate. She comments that he looks very well, to which he responds that she's neither a doctor nor planning to force an uninjured man to participate. She exclaims that she's sorry if she offended him. He grins, saying that it seems the responsibility entrusted to her by her brother is too much for her. He feels completely sorry for the incompetent person. She thinks he's making fun of her in a roundabout way. He is criticizing her for not being able to do anything because she's incompetent. He wonders if she understands what he said. It seems she's just a pumpkin princess. She should get out of his place. She tells him that she understands exactly what the Count wants to say. Suddenly, Theodore barges into his office. The aristocrat questions who he is. Theodore comments it looks like he has been saving up quite a bit. It seems like he's been extorting from the people in a very unfair way. As a member of the imperial family, she can't let this issue go unchecked. She orders that he be taken away tonight. However, he becomes angry and transforms into a werewolf, with fur and red eyes. He uses his enhanced strength to push the knights away. He asks if she thinks he will let some incompetent princess get the better of him. He charges at her, but Theodore quickly slashes his shoulder. He falls to the ground, writhing in pain. Moments later, his special ability disappears. Theodore is serious and is ready to take his life, but Lisa tells him that's enough. She tells him it's unfortunate, but they must add an attempted assassination on the princess's life. Realizing the situation, he begs her to wait. He states he had no intention of going against Princess Lisa and will participate in the extraordinary meeting. He'll do whatever she commands. She points at him, stating that she commands him to tell her what he knows about the other nobles. He smirks, seeing hope, and exclaims, "Yes, of course." But Lisa knows this isn't enough. In order to make the extraordinary meeting a success, she needs more. Next time, she won't even give him a chance to fight back because she'll make sure he's dead. Lastly, she wants to know everything about Felix's ability. Thanks to the information she got from the Count, the details about the meeting gradually increase. At times she was threats and sometimes used praise and manipulation. Once she had their weaknesses, it was easy to win them over. It's just that the aristocrat didn't know anything about Felix's power. The only thing he knew was that it was the power of fire. Theodore puts his sword at his neck and orders him to find out. He then reveals that no one has ever gotten away unharmed by probing into His Highness's ability. It doesn't seem like the weakness of Felix's special abilities can be easily grasped. Later, she was able to gather the participants of the Congress, but Felix's authority extends throughout the empire. It's too slow at this place. She needs to think of something. At that moment, Matilda inquires if she's all right. Lisa smiles, stating that she's fine and should enjoy the rest of the day. She's informed that the security outside is all clear. She thanks him for his report. He walks away, but as he does, Lisa feels dizzy. It's no good. With all this time, there's hardly any time to rest. She falls and Theodore catches her. Theodore tells her he'll get a doctor. She assures him that they don't need to bring a doctor because she's fine. However, He notices her trembling hands, so he carries her in his arms. If he can't bring the doctor to her, he will take her to the doctor. The doctor informs them that she's terribly overworked and needs to rest and recuperate for the time being. When the doctor leaves, she gets out of bed. Theodore inquires where she's going. She responds that she has to get back to the venue as soon as possible, but Theodore insists that she rest. She tries to persuade to Theodore, stating that she's okay now. Theodore gets on his knees, stating that she's been working too hard to the point of fainting. It's no different than being sick, so he hopes that she'll rest tonight. It's frustrating for her. She can't believe she collapsed after staying up all night for a few days. Time is running out. Even as they speak, the moment of her death is steadily approaching. She apologizes to Theodore, stating that she's putting him through a lot of trouble, but he tells her not to worry about him. He tells her to rely on him more because, after all, he is her fiancé. Do you remember the transaction? She remembers that she had promised to give him her everything. Suddenly, he turns his head and tells her to forget what he just said. It was too disrespectful. She smiles, wondering if this is a joke. She inquires if she can be a little bit selfish, requesting that when she falls asleep, he must stay by her side. He holds her hand and tells her yes. At that moment, a mansion is ablaze. A werewolf-like aristocrat is on his knees begging His Highness for forgiveness. He tells Felix that he has not given away any secrets, but Felix uses his ability and tells him to shut up. He then burns him to ashes. The only thing that remains is a scream. Felix laughs, stating that it is perfect for showing off. All traitors must be afraid of his power. The next day, commoners discuss the fire that burned down the mansion, but they think it wasn't just a fire. There are rumors going around that His Highness had something to do with it. After dinner, he sits with some nobles, enjoying his meal. He comments that he heard the Count lost his life in the fire. He says it is a pity that they lost him, but raises his glass to a bright future. Lisa wakes up and reads this news in the newspaper. She knows it's a blatant warning that if someone gets in his way, he has no problem taking their life. She needs to do something soon. Suddenly, a maid informs her that she has received a letter. She inquires from whom, but her maid just passes her the letter. She is surprised by the emblem. In the next scene, an old lady is on stage. To the precious child of the sun, greetings to Her Imperial Highness, she says. Lisa smiles and welcomes Duchess Jones. Duchess Jones had heard that Lisa wasn't feeling well, but she's glad to see that Lisa is in such good health. Lisa thanks her for her concern, but she was surprised when she received her letter. She had no idea that the Duchess of Jones would come to visit her. Duchess Vanessa Jones is the head of the Jones family, one of the trade giants. She controls the entire country's commercial network and is a key player in the empire's economy. There is a whisper that her leadership is what makes this country's economy grow. Speaking of the Duchess of the Golden Deer, there is no one in this country who doesn't know her name. This is the first time Lisa is meeting her. Even though she is old, she is very beautiful. Duchess Jones inquires if she has bothered Lisa with her sudden request. Lisa tells her of course not and that she is pleased. Lisa asks what she can do for her. A person who maintains a certain distance from politics, who never takes any interest in her, now suddenly wants to meet her. Duchess Jones tells her that it is just a visit. She has been thinking about greeting her properly someday and thought this would be a good time. Lisa tells her that she is very grateful, but if others hear that she approached her, the Duchess will be in trouble. She smiles, inquiring what Lisa would say if it was something she wanted to be heard. Lisa is flabbergasted. Embezzlement, Marquis Constable's brutality. Neither of these cases were easy to solve. She heard there were people supporting her and it would be an honor to meet her acquaintances. She smiles, stating that strong women should be welcomed. She is honored to be praised by the Duchess. However, Lisa has no idea what she is thinking, but this could be their chance to turn the tables. The Duchess comments that she's in a lot of trouble. She has been chosen as the chairman of the Council of Extraordinary Power. The nobility are too frightened by His Highness's feelings to drag him out. They need something decisive. What does Lisa have in mind? Lisa is starting to understand what she is thinking. She is here to evaluate her, but why would a successful businesswoman take such a risk? She remembers that the Duchess is suffering from a serious illness and will die soon. The Jones family will suffer a great loss after losing the head of the family. Before she dies, she wants to strengthen the bond with the person who will hold power after her father. Until now, there was no other member of the royal family with potential other than Felix. She's been reading that the fight between Felix and her is going to be intense. She's trying to figure out which side she will join. Duchess Jones inquires what she thinks, but Lisa states there is no solution, though it seems that it has arrived in her hands. The one who is going to make this council a success and defeat Felix will be her. She inquires if this is the chance she would like to bet on her. The Duchess tells her that once there was a person who had the ability to see into the future. They seem to have said something like this: they saw their own end and came back. Lisa seems startled but inquires why she is telling her this. She responds she wonders why. Is it because of all the members of the imperial family? She is the one with the clearest vision for this nation's future, so she will bet on Her Highness. The Duchess hands her a check. This is proof of trust from the Jones family. It's an extraordinary amount of money. As expected, she is the Duchess of the Golden Deer. If there isn't a lot of work involved in supporting monasteries and orphans, Lisa didn't realize that she knew so much. The Duchess explains that as a diva of the imperial capital, she saw her in a theater and her voice touched her heart. She is still a big fan of hers. Lisa exclaims, "Duchess Jones." But she asked her to call her Vanessa. She blushes slightly and thanks Vanessa. Vanessa states that this could be the decisive moment that Her Highness needs. Lisa inquires what she means. Vanessa then explains to her. Later, we see children running and playing together, doing chores. 2 children approach Theodore, stating that he is the strongest knight and they should play together, and the other one asks to hear a story. A knight intervenes stating he'll teach them the essence of how to play. The female knight realizes that he just wants to play with the children, and it seems that Theodore is having a great time. They also approach Princess Lisa and ask her to read them a book. Suddenly, commoners appear outside. The female knight states there's something noisy out there and she will go check it out. She approaches the commoners and inquires what she can do for them, but they were wondering if she could use this as well. She thanks them away but questions why. They explain that they heard that Her Highness Lisa is doing support work for a monastery. There have been a lot of disturbing incidents lately, so they are really grateful to her. If Princess Lisa is helping them, they thought they should do what they can. Lisa arrives and inquires who they are. She explains that the people of the capital have come to offer their help to Princess Lisa. She bows and thanks everyone very much for cooperating. She tells them that their support is just the beginning. She wants to make this country a place where people can live in peace regardless of their abilities. For those who do not have special abilities, she asks that they continue to lend her their strength. Theodore and the other knight appear, stating that she is very famous. There has never been a member of the imperial family who cares for the people of their territory as much as Her Royal Highness Princess Lisa. Theodore is contemplating something as he makes a grim expression. Suddenly, Vanessa tells him that he doesn't have to get so worked up, because until now, His Highness Felix has let his guard down. Is it going to be tough from now on? Later that night, she thinks that they can't let their guard down yet, but if things go like this, she's sure everything will be fine. Suddenly, Felix barges into her room, claiming that he came to check on her. She questions what he's doing here at this hour. He explains that he heard she started doing charity work for the incompetent. Also, it seems that she has given up on the Extraordinary Council. She responds that the concert hasn't even started yet and more nobles are expected to attend. He tells her not to try to make a fool of herself. He explains that if she apologizes to him right now, he will help her. He tells her to rub her forehead on the floor and beg for forgiveness. Also, she will continue to support his bid to be emperor and she will never disobey him again. She then explains that she refuses. He is stunned and questions what she is saying. She comments that she will make this meeting a success, even without his cooperation. She declares that he is interrupting her work, so she asks that he leave now. He becomes enraged and questions how dare she talk to him like that. He quivers, but her answer will remain the same no matter what he says, so she requests that he leave. He, in extreme anger, questions those eyes. She is merely an incompetent and useless person. He activates his ability and burns her hand. She tells him to let her go, but finding it hilarious, he throws her to the ground. She hits the table instead, falls on her knees and grips her hand. He comments that he thought he went easy on her, but maybe that was too much for an incompetent. He questions what he should do now if she apologizes now. Suddenly Theodore barges into the room. He sees her burnt arm. He becomes livid with anger. He unsheathes his sword, but surprisingly Felix dodges his strike, saying that does he think he can point his sword at him and get away with it? Theodore responds, even if he's the Royal Highness the Prince, does he really believe that he can get away with injuring Her Royal Highness the Princess? With obvious deadly intent, Felix stares back nervously, but at that moment, Lisa grabs his cloak and tells him that it's no good. Felix laughs, saying they don't have to fight all the way down there. He walks away, stating that even if he leaves them alone, the extraordinary meeting will probably end in failure. Immediately, Theodore goes to the princess's aid and tells her that she needs medical attention, but she smiles, stating that she will be fine. However, she realizes that these burns are less powerful than the flames that took her life. It seems that he adjusted his flames. No, it seemed that Felix was so enraged, he didn't have the composure to do anything about it. Something is different between the day she died and today. Suddenly, she comes to a realization. Later, she thanks them for joining her today. Felix looks at her with a triumphant expression as she exclaims that the extraordinary council of nobility will start now. Felix thinks she's just a stupid girl. She's conducting a major event of national prestige. But here comes the real thing. Vanessa's bet on Lisa is about to pay off. Now, is the coin heads or tails? She tells the crowd, take a bow and pray for the prosperity of the empire. However, Felix smiles, thinking that he believes it's all her fault. All this happened because she stood against him. At that moment, more nobles arrive and apologize for the delay. Felix, stunned, can't believe what he's seeing. As he notices them taking their seats, he wonders how and why. The support of the populace for Lisa is evident through her good deeds, which influences nobles across the nation. But Felix wouldn't understand, would he? He cannot believe that she's winning the people over. Earlier, this noble was at the council meeting, responding that he couldn't stand being manipulated by an incompetent woman. The commoners state that it seems the Lord of the Parliament will be absent this time, but the commoners believe it's a boycott against Princess Lisa. They think it's terrible after all she's done for them. What could be wrong with them? Is that person really worthy of being their lord? If a civil war broke out in his territory, it would be disastrous. Please, repeat once again. Thank them for coming, and now, ladies and gentlemen, maybe they will all pledge their oaths and prayers for the prosperity of the empire. Her father smiles, clapping his hands and thinking that she is excellent. He thought it was a failure, but now he gets it. Lisa is not incompetent. At that moment, he calls his son Felix and inquires if he swore the oath. Felix begins to stutter, stating no, he did not. His father sighs. He turns his head away from him and orders him not to get in Lisa's way. This seems to break Felix apart. He can't believe he's being replaced by Lisa. Felix is furious and takes up the rose as he pledges the oath. It was supposed to be him over there, but he stupidly gave it away. Lisa thinks that she has a stupid brother who doesn't belong here anymore. Ever since that day, the look on his face is what she's been waiting to see. He clenches his fists, thinking that she took everything from him. His father's trust, the next emperor's seat, and the admiration of the nobility. Everything. He's furious, and his eyes widen. Lisa stands on the balcony and stares to the sky, thinking that she has finally reached this point. There's nothing left for Felix now. But when she looks down, she notices Theodore. Even on a day like this, he is still outside. As Theodore patrols, he thinks that there seems to be nothing wrong. Lisa approaches him with a cup and asks him to take a little break. She takes a seat on a bench and advises him to sit next to her. He takes a seat and drinks some tea. She smirks and thanks him, saying that thanks to him and Vanessa, this whole thing worked out. But Theodore doesn't believe that he did anything. Everything was done by Lisa. She exclaims that she is just an incompetent girl. Without him, all she would be is nothing. She did everything for her own revenge. Suddenly, Theodore puts his hands in hers, asking what she's hiding from him. He seems to be in pain as he asks this question. You can tell he's pouring his heart and soul into this. She smiles, inquiring what he is talking about, and says she's not hiding anything. It's no good if he indulges her here. She is sure she'll do everything. He grips her hand tighter, stating that he's on her side. His words slowly break down the wall around her heart. She reveals that she died once and came back from the future. She tells him it's a long story. She explains that she was betrayed, poisoned, and followed by flames. He becomes furious as she explains that she lost her life. From their point of view, they don't think they betrayed her. But ever since she was born, she was just a convenient tool. She just wanted them to think of her as family. She lowers her head, exclaiming that she's just a stupid woman. She also used Theodore for revenge. She wanted the power and fear of the Golden Lion. Thanks to him, she has cornered Felix this far, and she's also ready to take her revenge. But of course, she'll make Louise regret it too. Louise trampled on her heart, so she will make her pay for it. Theodore becomes nervous and tells her that's enough. Lisa begins crying, revealing that talking about the sake of the country was all a lie. Noticing her pain, Theodore hugs her, claiming that he too has taken many lives on the battlefield in defense of his country, in the name of the greater good. The truth is, he just wanted to survive. Besides, he knew what she was. He's glad she confided in him instead of someone else. When she questions why he does so much for her, he explains that he loves her. Ever since they were children, he's been in love with her. This is the best day of his life. He loves this happy ending. That emotion was all that was left when his heart shattered on the battlefield. So he wishes that she uses him all she wants. She cries into his chest, questioning if he is true or if he wants to do it. She dragged him into her revenge. He lifts her head so that she can smile, even if he's burned in the flames of revenge, as long as it's with her. She hugs him passionately and inquires if she can cry a little bit more. He holds her and tells her yes. She reveals that she has also been thinking about him. She feels that Felix will try to take her life again. Theodore questions if they should increase security, but she tells him no, not right now, later. She already knows the weakness of his power. She requests to borrow his strength once more. He kisses her hand and tells her of course. He believes in her. Felix is coming to take her life because she's become a nuisance. Even after she regressed, she's sure the ending will definitely remain the same. But she's not alone anymore. This fate, she will overcome it with him by her side. Later that night, in Felix's castle, he drinks wine. He remembers that a nobleman apologized to him, stating that he couldn't help him. All he knows is that he seems to have switched sides, and all of them seem to have abandoned him. He believes it's all her fault. He declares it's unforgivable. A man approaches Felix, informing him that the security is very weak. The hooded man states that it's the first time he's been to a mansion where it was so easy to sneak in. Felix hands him a pouch of money. Felix walks away, thinking that she doesn't even have a security system. Is she saying that she is no longer in a position to be attacked? This only infuriates him. Suddenly, he stares at the mansion and activates his ability. His power slowly becomes more intense and engulfs the mansion. There is no one in this country who can stand against him. Suddenly, someone exclaims that it's not true. Lisa exclaims, "What a horrible thing to do," as he sets the mansion on fire. She smirks as she says this, but Felix is petrified, inquiring what she did and questioning why his powers aren't working. Suddenly, Theodore states that if she gives him the order, he will do it with his bare hands. She tells him that he can't. Felix becomes angry and demands an answer. However, she smirks, stating that he still doesn't understand the situation he's in. She reveals that the position has changed. At this moment, he is the real incompetent one. From here on, her life will finally begin. No, her revenge has finally begun. Perfect special abilities don't exist. Just as a Marquis's ability to slip through was not infinite, there will always be some limit to the use of an ability. The secret of Felix's ability, Flame, is that the phases of the moon affect the strength of his power. He knew that if he was going to attack her, he would aim for today, when the moon is full. But today is the day of a total lunar eclipse. At that moment, Felix looks into the sky and notices that the moon is dark, questioning what is happening. Lisa tells him that attacking someone from the royal family is forbidden. Even a prince is not immune from severe punishment. Felix begins to burn with anger and declares that he'll burn everything down. He's not going to let her be happy. Suddenly, Theodore intervenes. Felix does not back down. He tells Theodore that he is also a nuisance and should get out of his way. Theodore is prepared, and he is firm as the flames come rushing toward him. The flames engulf Theodore. Felix then declares that she's next. With a slash, Theodore escapes the flames and rushes towards Felix, pinning him to the ground. With this, she can say goodbye to the person who controlled her. Felix questions what she did to her brother, but Lisa declares that he is no longer her brother. He is just a sinner. Felix stares at her, flabbergasted. Later, as the sun rises and Felix is taken into custody, the commoners and nobles applaud the princess. However, not long after, Louisa attempts to act friendly with Lisa, stating that she can't think of anyone else who'd be a better emperor. She comments that her sister should have a tea party with her next time, but Lisa brushes her off and says she will think about it. In the garden, Lisa tells Theodore that she will be busy from now on. Louisa is acting nice, but there are still nobles who are against her, though she doesn't know what her father is planning. Theodore comments that it's going to be a rough road to improve this country, but it's okay because he will be by her side. He holds her shoulder and tells her that no matter what, he'll remain by her side forever. They kiss passionately, accepting the love they have for each other. That is the end of the story. Please remember to like and subscribe.